Hello and welcome to the One Shot Show where GMs go to level up. I'm Patty. I'm joined as always by Matt, and today we're pivoting. We're going away from the usual systems. We're talking about those strange and beautiful other places in the TTRPG system world that are not going to get Matt all worked up. Your volume levels are safe.
Fresh off the back of last episode where I bitched about Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and 5.5. If you too are sick of 5th edition, here's some other ones you might want to try.
We get to go to this safe little indie scene. It's going to be great.
We did this. We've done this episode format before. I really like this episode format. Yeah. Last time we did it, I did Pathfinder 2nd edition.
I did Fabula.
You did Fabula Ultima.
Yeah,
So I did one that was a bit of a, here's one step away from Dungeons and Dragons. It's an offshoot system of that IP. You went a little bit more out there. You kind of swung for the fences.
I think we're going even further away this time.
Well, I think we've done a similar thing, actually, where I've come in with something that I think is a good one step removed. If you want to move away from the style of system that you might be used to if all you've ever played is D&D, regardless of edition, or indeed if all you've ever played is D&D and a little bit of Pathfinder, let's move on a little bit.
We're moving away from fantasy in general. Boom!
Fallout.
Wow, he just dropped the bomb.
Fallout RPG. That's what I brought.
Pretty.
Now, the reason I think that this is a brilliant system, as a sort of one step removed, is there's a damn good chance you've played Fallout. There's a good chance that you've played Fallout, or you've watched the show, or you are otherwise passingly familiar with the IP, and that's going to do a lot of heavy lifting for you.
Yeah.
I think IP-specific RPG systems are a really good way to branch out
I've never played one, I realize
Not at all?
now.
Really?
No.
I've played Fallout. I've played that one.
Yeah.
I didn't love it.
Yes,
I
I
played
remember.
Star Wars Edge of the Empire, which I
cool.
thought was quite good. I played Star Trek one. Can't remember the name of it. I just think they're a really great, because again, you're familiar with so many other things. It actually makes it easier to just focus on what is different about the rules and the dice resolution mechanics. I played Warhammer Wrath and Glory. That's one of the other ones I've done. So again, I'm really familiar with the Warhammer IP. It was really easy for me to do that. I know what kind of character I think is going to be interesting. I could just focus in on learning what was different about the system rather than having to do it all at once. And I think that's why actually people often start with Dungeons and Dragons. It's because fantasy tropes are something we're already familiar with, because it was built off this sort of shared miasma of fantasy tropes between things like Lord of the Rings and Conan and a lot of early fantasy. Exactly. So you're already going in with a bit of passing familiarity. You see something in the book called a wizard, and you sort of know roughly what that's going to be like. Anyway, this is Fallout. The things you might like about Fallout are, like I say, the IP. Go for the system if you have at least a little bit of familiarity with Fallout. You don't even have to have mechanical familiarity with the video game. If you are familiar with the setting, if you have watched the show and you're like, damn, that looks crazy, that looks what an interesting tone, what a fascinating kind of setting. This looks like it would be a lot of fun. And you open this book and you can play as a Mr. Handy robot with a flamethrower, right? You can play as a vault dweller that's just emerging fresh into the wasteland. You can play as a ghoul that's 200 years old. You can play as all kinds of interesting different things. It's all in there for you. It all makes perfect sense. The actual rules itself end up then being very straightforward for the core of the dice resolution. So this is obviously Bethesda IP. This is published by Modiphius, and Modiphius have what's called their 2D20 system that they actually use across a lot of other games that they have the publishing rights for, other IP tie-ins that they've done. So the other reason I recommend this is, once you've learned the 2D20 system, just as I recommended going to a familiar IP to learn a new kind of dice resolution system, once you have the dice resolution system, you can go into less familiar IPs. You could take this over into, I think the Dune one is one of theirs.
Cool.
If you watch the movies, you haven't read the books, and you're like, this looks like an interesting world, I wonder what I could do in that. How cool. The way it works is it's a roll under. So you have your stat. Let's say your ability with small guns is at a 13. You are rolling a d20, so that's still familiar, and you are trying to roll below your score, a 13. Okay. So as your abilities get better, as your number goes up, it is easier for you to roll under. There is also a thing whereby as you roll a certain level of below, you get additional successes. And that's how passing checks actually works. You roll, for any given check, 2 d20s, and you are trying to get a certain number of successes. So for a very easy thing, if it's just a straight up, we're in a fight, I'm shooting you, neither of us are in cover, you're at the correct range for my given weapon. I'm using a pistol. We're in close quarters. It's going to have a difficulty of 1. I need only 1 success. I roll my 2d20, and if I get at least one of those dice below my small gun's score, say it's 13, cool, I hit. Roll damage.
Yeah.
If I get additional successes, I get additional resources I can spend.
Cool.
They might let me do things like fire a second shot this turn. They might let me roll additional damage dice. They might do all sorts of other interesting things. There's also, if you roll a 1, so a 1 is like a natural 20 in this instance, that counts automatically as 2 successes.
Cool.
So if you roll your 2 dice and one of them is a 1 and the other one's also below the correct threshold, 3 successes. Wow, I get to do all kinds of stuff. You can generate a meta resource that you and your allies can spend. That meta resource can be spent to do crazy things like take additional actions. You can flatly re-roll dice. You can also buy additional dice. It's called a 2d20 system. You can actually buy up to 5 d20 for any given check.
Oh, wow.
Most checks are going to sit in the range of 1 to 3. Sometimes there's going to be a difficulty 0, which is essentially an auto success unless you roll really, really badly, but a single success immediately buys you meta resources. This is the equivalent of a rogue that should be good at picking a lock. It's a difficulty 0 check,
Yes.
right? If a check is really, really way up there, like it's totally outlandish, like I'm trying to land a headshot with a pistol at night from 500 yards away, that might be like a difficulty 6. I need to roll all 5 dice and they've all got to land and I've got to get some critical successes in there, right?
Cool.
It means that you as the GM have a lot of leeway with the difficulty grading on something, and then it also streamlines a lot of mechanics for you. Every weapon has the range that it is ideally meant to work within. These ranges are not measured in a flat distance. They are measured by zones.
Ah, cool.
So if you are, a little bit up the ways, you are at medium range. If you're in the same zone, you're at close range. And it'll say, pistols, use them at close range. Sniper rifles, use them at long range. Everything else, medium range. Melee weapons, melee range. Really simple, right?
Cool.
Really straightforward. If you're shooting at the wrong range, difficulty goes up by 1.
Ah, nice.
They're behind cover, difficulty goes up by 1. Adverse
cool
weather
way
conditions,
to bring the firearms.
difficulty goes up. It's very straightforward.
Yeah.
It means it's really clear at all times what kind of difficulty you as the GM should be setting. And then again, I say go for something that, as a familiar IP, because it means that you, as a GM, can just lean on the tone of gameplay that you already know how to do. I play in a bi-weekly game of this right now. The most recent arc we kind of wrapped up was this wonderful hot spring with the supposed healing abilities that turned out to be a load of bunk. And as a part of it, we had this little side journey to take out a rival faction that wanted to take over that hot spring that was like Elvis impersonators, right? Just the kind of silly tonal things you can do in Fallout. And while we're playing through it, I'm like, I've never seen this in a Fallout game, but this feels exactly correct. And even though I've got just some like grisly survivalist with a big fuck-off gun, and someone else is like a super mutant, and one of them is, a wandering singing cowboy type. It felt perfectly natural. It all feels perfectly congruent because it's such a weird kitchen sink setting, and it's a goddamn blast. Cannot recommend Fallout enough.
I was gonna. It's when you were talking. I was going like it's such a perfect TTRPG system because it has the every room is a different genre, calling back to a previous episode, feeling to it, where it can be goof, 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 serious, 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 life or death at the same time. Yeah, and I could see, it would be very hard to break the buzzword verisimilitude of Fallout.
Take a drink.
And unlike something like, for example, like when you mentioned Dune, I'm just kind of like, how would a joke be told in a game of Dune?
Very difficult. Very, very difficult. I'll have the eggs Bene Gesserit, please. That's it. That's the only Dune joke I know.
Imagine coming into a very serious Dune and having that be your opening gambit into the game. Truly awful.
I like to order the eggs Bene Gesserit and a cappuccino. Thank you.
That's so exciting. Just one clarification.
Oh, okay,
when you were just the difficulty of a roll, or like the degrees of success, is that coming from something on your sheet? Let's say I have to roll under this. If I roll this much under, I get 2 successes? Or is that set by the GM?
So the way it works is for any given roll, a 1 will always give you a critical success.
Yeah.
If it is in what is called a tag skill, this is their proficiency essentially. it increases the degree at which a critical success is had. So if I have invested 2 points worth into small guns, my critical success threshold is 3 or under because it increases it by 2. And you can go up to, I think, 6. So you can get as high as anything below a 7 is a critical success, and also anything below the main threshold for that score is a regular success.
That's so exciting.
So I've got a character that has a great big fuck-off gun, and they're great with that big fuck-off gun, and they're not super hot at a lot of other things. They've got a bit of crafting because they want to be able to maintain their gun. That's kind of it, right? But I'm great at those things. And it really rewards that sort of play.
Whoa, okay.
10 candles.
We're going to go to a different game. I'm pitching 10 Candles, which is a pure one-shot game. It can only be played as a single sitting altogether. It's very different from the typical sort of like big narrative, crunchy TTRPGs we've been talking about. This is how you play 10 Candles. This is the core of it all.
Do we need to dim the lights?
You would. So you play 10 Candles, ideally in a perfectly dark room that's lit only by 10 tea light candles. Preferably tea light candles that have a burn time of around 2.5 hours. The game begins with your lights on every...
This is perfect.
Magic just happened in the recording studio. I love it.
Talk to me about 10 candles.
You begin in full light. Every player at the table has a series of index cards, and you have the candles all set in front of you. And it's a game of... the game calls it not survival horror, but tragic horror, because one of the conceits of 10 Candles is that every player character by the end of the game must die. By the time the last candle is snuffed in the game, everybody will have died to the force that is out there.
Is this in like a slasher horror kind of way?
So
where
you choose. It's really, really fun. So like the core... The entire resource, the core book, comes with a series of suggested scenarios to kick you off from. One of the core things of 10 Candles is that the enemy must always be in the dark. Whatever is in the dark is the thing that is threatening your characters, and as the darkness encroaches, the more danger they're in.
You can immediately see, like I said, I mentioned slasher horror, which is the slightly campier version where it's like, I mean, you could even play it to the tropes or choose to subvert them, where, you know, the two characters that have sex at the start both die first. All sins must be punished in a slasher horror. And obviously, a slasher horror has the conceit that one person gets away alive. Yeah. And then you remove that.
You do always end up with a final girl in 10 Candles.
Exactly.
Which is beautiful.
So even though they die at the end, you still get to hit that narrative beat. But I could also see it as being, you know, your sort of Blair Witch style, you know, teenagers go into the woods and they're getting sort of picked off one by one.
Yeah, I've played in the times that I've played a space a space horror on a space station.
Yep, I could see that.
Have played a there are essentially like Cthulhu-esque monsters rising from the deep, but it was set like on a sort of like an exotic resort. Very, very fun. And then there's a very sad playbook in there, which is you are playing street dogs on the streets of an abandoned city, which is very, very tragic. It was too sad. So it was very fun.
Is this then working on a much more narrative heavy layer?
Hugely. So like character creation begins when you light 3 candles. So the game begins as soon as you start character creation, like you're on the clock. And you create essentially traits for your character. Then you create a pivotal moment for your character. Like basically there are more like touchstones around it in the text. But it's like when my character is confronted by this challenge, here is how they will try and overcome it. That becomes like a part of your character sheet. And then you are also basically given a dark secret by the player next to you that you share together. And so you have your basically 4 pieces of paper, and you have a collective dice pool. The players have 10 D6s for the 10 candles, and then as failures accrue, candles are snuffed around the table. The players' dice pool gets smaller and smaller and smaller. All they need to do whenever they take an action is collectively roll, as they roll that dice pool, 1 or more 6s. If they don't roll a 6, a candle is snuffed, and the danger grows and grows and grows and grows until you are playing by a single candle light.
Which mathematically has a ramping effect as well, because the more candles are out, the less dice you get to roll, the less chances you have of the success.
And the dice that aren't, and for every candle that is snuffed, the GM gains a dice that they roll. And if the GM ends up rolling more sixes than the players do, the GM gets to take increasingly more and more control of the game. So this horror movie setting of like the monster or the danger grows higher and higher and higher and higher and higher as the players' resources grow lower and lower, that's baked into the game as well. The other thing is that those little snippets of character, your traits, your moment, and your dark secret, you can literally burn those to roll additional dice using the candles. And so there's this, it's wonderfully spooky, and it's a beautiful one shot for a midwinter or for a Halloween. But I would say it's a beautiful time for those folk if you're people who love playing tabletop and who really want to like invest in a really different tabletop experience. I don't think it's a first-time GM's game. I don't think it's a first-time player's game, but as like something that feels really special, where everybody wants to buy in to essentially that feeling of telling scary stories in the night on camp. That's the feeling of 10 Candles.
And there's one other thing here that I'm curious about, because I know you've mentioned this before when this system has come up on the show. Obviously, if you're sat there with your 5 players and they're all expected to die over the course of the campaign, poor old mate Bob, who dies first because he had sex, idiot. Not going to make a joke there. He then sits there doing what exactly for the rest of the session?
It is the burning of your cards that times that out for you. So like as well as the snuffing of the candle. So you get you have control over the speed of your demise, but also there's something beautiful about the game, that collective dice roll altogether of these handfuls of dice, because you're not rolling your character's dice. Because of that, it becomes this incredible thing of, especially at the end when there are very few candles, of everybody pouring over the dice pool to see what's going to happen. The dice pool by the GM growing, the dice pool of the players diminishing. Yeah, I've never found buyout in the game. The other beautiful thing, there's like it grows so well.
Well, I can already see what that first death actually looks like from a player's perspective. It's the heroic sacrifice. Oh. It's the shocking twist of lethality, where previously you thought it was dangerous, now you realize it's deadly. And actually being the person in charge of delivering that moment to the table carries its own kind of satisfaction.
Oh, yeah. And that's also like one of the things that you're essentially, when you're rolling those dice pools, you're rolling to retain narrative rights, to retain like the ability to either like keep confronting the danger, or when the GM's pool gets larger, the GM takes over narrative rights and always has always has super dangerous consequences for the players. Yeah, it's always been a beautiful time, and it's like it's a really affordable, accessible online game, perfect for Halloween. When's this going to come out? End of July?
Yeah, a little bit of ways, but plenty of time to learn the rules to 10 Candles and find somebody that sells candles that last for roughly 2.5 hours.
It's pretty easy to do. And I will shout out, the game is made by Stephen Dewey, and it's by Cavalry Games, and it's super great. I found it so worthwhile every time that I played it.
We absolutely love this format. We can't do it too often because we will run out of systems, but it means that hopefully you'll have plenty of time to learn some of these ones, and we really do recommend you try some of these systems out. That does us for this episode of the One Shot Show, and we'll see you in the next one. Hello, dear listener. If you're enjoying listening to the One Shot Show, we'd love to have you on a Discord server. Get in touch with us over our socials or email, and we'll give you an invite link. If you back us on Patreon, you'll get some additional stuff in that Discord server, such as contributing questions to our live monthly Q&A sessions where we go over last month's episodes. If you back us on Patreon, you'll also get access to a whole bunch of other stuff, such as bonus episodes and all sorts of other cool things. Go ahead and check it out, and thanks for listening.